When we were kids, growing up in the small town of Harvest Ridge, we found a treehouse. It sat shrouded in the heart of the forest that our parents had always warned us about, the Whispering Woods. Our gang, consisting of me, Maddie, Sarah, and little Timmy, were always looking for adventure, and the allure of the forbidden was too much to resist. It was a crisp October afternoon, the time when the leaves were changing, painting the world in shades of gold and crimson. We'd promised to stay near the edge of the woods, but youthful curiosity is a powerful thing. The sight of the treehouse, nestled in the gnarled branches of an ancient oak, was the most magical thing we'd ever seen. Guys, think of all the cool stuff we can do up there. Maddie was the de facto leader, his bright blue eyes always full of mischief. Are you sure we should? Sarah, ever the voice of reason, asked, her brown eyes flicking between us nervously. Timmy just clutched his teddy bear tighter, his tiny body trembling. Ignoring their reservations, I stepped forward. Let's just check it out. We'll be back home before dinner. The climb was daunting, the wooden rungs creaking ominously under our weight. But when we finally scrambled inside, it was like entering another world. It wasn't the cozy den of childhood dreams we'd imagined. Instead, it was a stark, grim place filled with strange symbols etched into the walls, dark stains on the wooden floor, and an unsettling stone altar in the center. Guys, this doesn't look right, Sarah said, her voice a bare whisper. What's all this stuff? Maddie asked, poking at a pile of odd, bone-like trinkets. And then, Timmy screamed. He was pointing at a corner where a crude drawing depicted a monstrous figure surrounded by smaller, kneeling figures. Beneath the drawing were words scrawled in a dark, rusty color. The chosen must feed the silent one. We left the treehouse quickly, fear replacing our initial curiosity. We promised each other we'd never go back, and for a while, we kept that promise. But then, Timmy went missing. The town searched, but found nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. We were devastated, but a nagging thought lingered in the back of my mind. The treehouse. One night, unable to bear the guilt and the uncertainty, I snuck out and returned to the Whispering Woods. What I saw there still haunts my dreams. The treehouse was glowing, a sickly green light pulsating from its windows. Hushed whispers echoed around the woods as cloaked figures shuffled into the treehouse. I hid, watching in horrified silence as the ritual unfolded. Their leader stood by the altar, a familiar teddy bear in his hands. The silent one demands. The chosen shall answer, he intoned, and the woods seemed to shiver in response. I ran, the image seared into my brain. The treehouse wasn't just a treehouse. It was a sacrificial altar, and we'd walked right into it. We'd given them their chosen. I told the others. We told our parents, the police, anyone who would listen. They didn't believe us, of course. They searched the woods and found nothing. The treehouse was gone, as if it never existed. All that remained was an empty clearing, and the echo of our guilt. The town declared Timmy a lost cause, a heartbreaking mystery that would never be solved. The rest of us were sent to therapists, told we'd invented the whole thing as a way to cope with the trauma. But we knew the truth. Weeks turned into months, and then years. We grew up, but the shadows of our childhood lingered. We never spoke about Timmy or the treehouse, but it was always there, a silent specter haunting our lives. I eventually moved away for college, the need to escape Harvest Ridge overwhelming. But, like all nightmares, it drew me back in. Maddie, the spark in his eyes long extinguished, called me late one night. We found another one, another treehouse, he whispered, his voice trembling, in another forest, on the other side of town. My heart sank. Maddie, we can't go through that again. I think I saw Timmy, he said, and the line went dead. Coming back to Harvest Ridge was like walking into a ghost of my past, a snapshot of a time that was both innocent and horrifying. The town was still the same, save for the haunted looks in the eyes of those who remembered what had happened. And Maddie, he was still there, rooted in our shared past, unable to escape the shadow of the treehouse. As for Sarah, she had severed ties with us shortly after we burnt the original treehouse. The trauma of what had happened, the loss of Timmy, it was all too much for her. She moved overseas, seeking solace in distance and disconnection. Her absence was a palpable void, a missing piece in our fractured group. With the news of the second treehouse, I had tried to contact her, but my calls went unanswered. It was clear she wanted nothing to do with Harvest Ridge or anything that reminded her of our shared past. I couldn't blame her. If I could have escaped it all, I would have. But Maddie was here, and I couldn't leave him to face it alone. The sight of the new treehouse sent shivers down my spine. It was an eerie mirror of the first one, nestled in the foreboding branches of an ancient tree. The silence around it was suffocating, the air heavy with an unseen dread. The pulsating glow of the symbols seemed more potent, more threatening. It was as if the treehouse was alive, breathing, waiting. We were no longer the naive, adventurous children who first discovered that cursed treehouse. We were adults now, forged and hardened by the fires of our past. Our hands, once used for climbing trees and playing catch, now held cans of gasoline and bags of salt. We had done our research, read up on rituals and ancient cults, anything that might give us an edge. This time, we weren't going to be victims. We were going to fight. We waited, hidden in the underbrush, our hearts pounding in sync with the ominous drumbeat that echoed from the treehouse. One by one, the cloaked figures emerged and disappeared into the night, leaving the eerie glow of the treehouse behind. Maddie was the first to move. He approached the treehouse with a grim determination, his jaw set and eyes hard. I followed, every fiber of my being screaming at me to turn back. But we had come too far. We had to end this. Stepping into the treehouse felt like stepping into a nightmare. The symbols, the altar, the heavy air of malevolence, it was all as we remembered. But in the corner, a small figure huddled. Timmy. He looked just as he did the day he disappeared. His clothes tattered and dirty, his teddy bear clutched tightly in his arms. But his eyes, they were different. They glowed with an ethereal light, as though some strange power had taken residence within him. When he saw us, he didn't cry or call for help. He merely pointed to a chilling message on the wall. The silent one is fulfilled. The chosen will return. With Timmy safely in our arms, we escaped the nightmarish treehouse. We poured gasoline around it, creating a perimeter with salt, before setting the entire place ablaze. We stood there, watching as the unholy monument to the silent one was swallowed by angry flames. In the days that followed, we took Timmy to the hospital. He didn't speak or react, his glowing eyes the only sign of the otherworldly presence within him. His parents, overjoyed and terrified in equal measure, thanked us for bringing their son home. But we knew, deep down, that Timmy hadn't really come home. Not all of him. A month after Timmy's return, the hospital caught fire. It was a clear, calm night with no sign of arson or electrical malfunction. Yet, the building burnt to the ground, an eerily familiar sight for Maddie and me. We rushed to the hospital, hearts pounding with the dread we knew all too well. The fire was relentless, an inferno that resisted every attempt to quench it. It wasn't until dawn broke that the flames finally died down, leaving nothing but ash and ruin in their wake. They never found any bodies, not a single trace of the patients or staff. The entire town mourned, but Maddie and I shared a silent understanding. The hospital, the fire, the missing people, it was all too familiar. It felt like the treehouse, the silent one, all over again. When we returned to the site of the burnt hospital, we found one thing intact amid the rubble, a small, burnt teddy bear, Timmy's teddy bear, and scrawled in the ash beneath it was a chilling message: "The chosen has awakened."